Okay, welcome to BWTM Sports. This is the review of Errol Spence versus Shawn Porter. This video is brought to you via a request by Denise Wards. Okay, let's get into this. First and foremost, congratulations to both guys putting on a great fight tonight. It was fabulous. It was a great fight. And congratulations to both guys for putting it all on the line for us to enjoy this sport of boxing. So, pre-fight, um, ever since I've watched Errol Spence, I haven't seen the, um, I've seen he's a good boxer. I think I said this to you all before, good boxer puncher. But some of the applause and plaudits that Errol Spence has had from certain sections of the boxing media, I felt have been really unjustified. I think he's a good fighter, and up to this Shawn Porter fight, to me his resume was incredibly lacking, considering the sort of praise he was getting. It didn't quite match up to his resume, and the belief that that Errol Spence is some sort of bogeyman is still for me very. I just I don't see him being a bogeyman um, at all. I think he's a good fighter, but I don't think he's a bogeyman. I don't think he's. I think he's. I think he's a good fighter that has been caught up in the broadcasting wars, and so therefore everybody that's a good fighter is suddenly oversold. So it's even harder for them to perform. So before it's like you just promote a fighter based on what they can do and a little bit more. Now with this promotional war with DAZN, Top Rank, um, main events, and the rest, PBC, every fighter that they've got in their camp will always be the best thing since sliced bread, which can be quite nauseating. Um, Now, when you give a guy credit where it's due, like for example, you give Manny Pacquiao's credit where it's due, I get it. Meaning, if you're going to start giving, um, Canelo his credit, okay, fine, give him his credit. I get that. But this stuff about Errol Spence, I feel, has been a lot of agendas there. Um, so the fight itself, when I looked at the fight and I talked about the breakdown to this fight, I said, what Porter's got to do, I suspect, is you've got to get on Errol Spence's chest, and you've got to just climb on him and just land, just work him, try and outwork him. Now, for me, Errol Spence is the golden boy. If you can't see that now, you'll never see. He's the golden boy. Okay, he's the golden goose in the welterweight division. Yeah, Pacquiao might be the money man in terms of his legacy and everything, but the golden goose is Errol Spence. Okay, so again, a nauseating thing to see. At the end of a fight, which justifies the golden goose thing, is that the fight is announced. The scores are announced, shocking scorecards, and then afterwards they roll out Danny Garcia. They roll out Danny Garcia. Check this out. Have you ever heard a fight be that close, split decision, and the champion has just been beat doesn't say he wants an automatic rematch? Now, was it the case that they both knew that the winner was going to face Danny Garcia and that it just wasn't in the schedule for them to have an automatic rematch? If that's the case, that Porter and Spence both knew at the end of the fight, the winner would get to face Danny Garcia, regardless who won. Check this out. I've never known at the end of a fight where the champion, who's just lost the title, turns around, congratulates the crowd, congratulates his opponent, congratulates everybody, and then doesn't turn around and say, I want my rematch. That's a close fight. Let's do it again. Ridiculous. The fight itself, well, I've said it before, I'll say it again. Spence moves back in straight lines. He doesn't move his head. So therefore, he's always there to get clipped and hurt. I tell you something now, right? Shawn Porter. Let's break this down about Shawn Porter. Shawn Porter is like an American football player, yeah, and everyone laughs about Shawn Porter and his style, yeah. Shawn Porter is no boxing wizard. He's rough, he's rugged. There's no science about what he does, right? For the most part, there are nice things he does where he had Porter on the we had Spence had him on the ropes and he spun him. He got himself out the cooker real quick. Spun him around, and was able to trade with Spence. I've said pressure burst pipes. Okay. Now, the thing is, all them punches that Spence threw. Let me tell you something now. If he was getting nailed by a real welterweight that could punch, Spence would have been in a lot of trouble because he left himself open so many times. And so far, I mean, he's fought Brook, but that was a beaten version of Brook, and we really don't know how big a puncher Brook is. But Danny Garcia is a guy that can lay you out a one shot with a left hook. Danny Garcia can punch. Right? He can punch. He punches a lot harder than Porter. And he might not find as many spots as Porter because Porter keeps you constantly going. But he has the power to change a fight with that one left hook. That is what I know about Danny Garcia. The fight itself, Spence was getting hit way too often. There were some good things, and I've said it before about the whole bow and arrow of Spence. If you give Errol Spence space, if you give him space, you allow him to use those long levers and get leverage in his punches, you're in trouble. And if you look at the punch that dropped Porter, look at the range it was in. Right, that range there, that is where Errol Spence is most effective, and Porter laid himself right there. And again, this is another fight where Shawn Porter has got himself in a position where he's got clipped late in the fight. I don't know if it's a concentration thing. I don't know if it's a tiredness thing. He got clipped. We saw it in the Ugas fight. We saw it in the Broner fight, and now we're seeing it here as well against Spence. The reason why Spence doesn't look as good as everybody is saying he is because he's not as good as everybody's saying he is. He's a good fighter, and he's a guy that, for the most part, is capitalizing and using his physical strength to cause problems. All right, because physical strength. Now, people are saying afterwards. Now, a lot of people say after, well, Porter style will give anyone problems. But if you listen to people before the fight, Spence was going to destroy Porter, or Spence was going to dismantle Porter. Spence was going to do this. Spence was going to do that. I never believed any of that. And you can listen to what I said previously. I'm not talking a language that a lot of people are going to appreciate, and I get it. But I'm not into all this blowing smoke up people's asses. I'm not doing it. Spence is a good fighter. He's no Sugar Ray Leonard, all right? Spence is a good fighter. I still would like to see him fight Keith Thurman. But for me, the best welterweight in the world is Terence Crawford. Dismantling them. and that's what I like about Terence Crawford. You know the fight I would like to see now, if I can match make, I would make Porter fight Crawford. That'd be a hell of a fight. Crawford versus Porter. That's the fight I would make. So I think Crawford and Porter should fight. Um, Danny Garcia versus Spence. Good fight. Um, I just think Crawford's a far more adaptable fighter. I think he can box orthodox, he can box southpaw, he can box off the front foot, he can box off the back foot, he can slug, he can counter punch, and I think he's a bigger puncher than Spence. I really do, or more accurate. I am a big fan of Crawford. I always have been. I like Spence, but he showed me he can be out hustled and he can be outworked, and he didn't seem to me when this when Porter was on top of him, he didn't seem to know quite what to do when Porter was on top of him. I mean, Porter was at one point beating him up. He was beating him up, and that seventh round, for the most part of that seventh round, he was getting beaten up by guys physically smaller and getting hurt by guys physically smaller. Now, um, Danny Garcia can punch, and he's laid guys out in the welterweight division. He's always had power in that left hook. Whether he's a big welterweight, I don't know. Size is what Spence is an advantage for Spence. But I tease something now, right? Don't even think for 1 second that that version of Spence is going to beat Canelo. No, he's too flat-footed. He is too flat-footed. He's A, too flat-footed, and B, he don't move his head. No. And Canelo's more crisp of his punches. Yeah, that just. I mean, this is as he said, an American football player. So it's very interesting when these fighters make these comments about other fighters. When Fury said that, you listen to these fighters. Fury said that Wilder was a bum. Wilder was a bum, and Wilder was a lanky basketball player, and and a dosser. You know, and you're a great boxer. You got dropped twice by a dosser and a bum. All right. So now Spence has been in a ring with a guy who's no more than an American football player who can't box. These are things that I look at and I say to myself, a devastating job. You tell me a fight where Shawn Porter's, Errol Spencer looked devastating. He didn't look devastating against Porter. He didn't look devastating against Mikey Garcia, and he didn't look devastating against Kell Brook. Don't tell me about no names or Lila Bundu or Chris Van Hedren or the other guy. I can't remember. It's Chris, not the other one. We're gonna let him out of the cage now. I can't remember his name again, but yeah. Don't tell me that Errol Spence looks devastating. He's workmanlike, yes. He's tough, yes. He's a good boxer, a good body puncher, but it's hit way too often, and he's fortunate that he's not getting hit by a welterweight who's known for knocking guys out. Okay, because I tell you now, if he was getting hit by someone like Keith Thurman, well, even not even Thurman anymore, but if he's getting hit by a big puncher, this would be a different situation and a different result, because he was getting hurt in there by Porter, who's not noted as a massive puncher, and he was getting hurt to the body and getting hurt to the head by Porter. So this put a little bit more emphasis on the puncher. I don't know. I don't know. I tell you, a fun fight I'd like to have seen is Marcus Maidana against Errol Spence. That's a fun fight. That's a good fight. Marcus Maidana, Errol Spence. I'm talking about Marcus Maidana that fought Amir Khan, Marcus Maidana, or the one that fought Floyd. It's a guy who can punch, strong, good chin, rugged, and puts pressure on. Good fight. Um, Spence has got a good fight now coming up with Danny Garcia, and that fight would have taken something out of Spence as well. So we'll see. But I think that he struggles to make 147, and I think fighters need to target that body. Um, like I said about Porter, I'll say to Danny Garcia, if he tries to stand on the outside of Spence and stand flat foot in front of Spence, he's going to get a good working over. Porter showed the way to beat Spence. Don't allow him to set his feet and plant his feet to throw them body shots. Don't allow it. Be up in his grill all the time. When he's punching, punch with him. When he punches, when Spence is punching, you punch with Spence. Do you know what I mean? And when he stops punching, you keep punching. That's how you beat Spence. Punch when he's punching. Canelo knockout Spence. Leave it alone. I love Spence. Well, Spence, but yeah, I never believed. Oh, Mr. Boxing today. I never believed Spence was going to run through Porter. Porter is way too physically strong and a damn good chin. I picked Spence. Unanimous point decision. Yeah, I see that, but I don't think Spence is what everyone's cracked him out to be. And now, when I look at Manny Pacquiao now and the way he fought Keith Thurman, and then the way Spence holds his feet, and the way Pacquiao throws lots of punches, and he does hit mighty hard, I don't know. It's making me wonder all over again about Pacquiao Spence. Because Spence, I don't believe Spence hits harder than Thurman. And different types of fighters, aren't they? Thurman's more on the move. Spence is very flat-footed. So when you spread your legs that wide apart, like he does, like Spence does at times, it's difficult for you to get yourself out of range. You take the full impact to shots. Now, here's some good things I saw in Spence. I saw dogging Spence. That was really good. I like that. I like that when he was hurt, he fought back. I didn't like the seventh round where he just stood right there in the seventh round and just took a shellacking for the most of that seventh round by Porter. Go back and look at it. Got hurt to the body, got hurt to the head, and he just sucked it all up and just stood there and just tucked up and just went into a ball. Didn't like that. And I'm thinking if a real puncher was in there again, but he sucked up. He sucked it up. He took his licks. Pressure burst pipes. I just think that, in all the years that Porter's been fighting, he still can't throw punches consistently, accurately. The amount of times I know Spence was making a miss, but the amount of times he's winging these wild punches up. I mean, at no point you've been taught how to shorten your shots up. All that time you've been training, all these years you've been training, you're still winging them wild shots in. But I like the strategy they put with Spence because and I like the way Porter was able to turn Spence all the time. He turned him quite easy as well. In terms of physical strength, I didn't see that physical strength where Spence was able to bully and manhandle Porter because he didn't do that. So he's a strong welterweight because he's physically bigger. But because somebody's physically bigger doesn't mean up close they're strong. There's some guys who are physically big, but they're not actually up close very strong. Like I remember talking about to Dave Allen, and he was talking about Daniel Dubois, and he was comparing Dubois to Joshua. And he says Joshua up close isn't physically very strong, but he says when he was up to Dubois, he said, when Dubois hit him with a jab, he just rocked his head back. He said he couldn't move Dubois. he couldn't get inside and wrestle with Dubois. Big difference. So, you know, um, Porter was able to cause damage and cause Spence to back up a lot of times. And Porter is not a big puncher. So, like I said before, I'm repeating myself a bit, but I'm just going through things and thinking to myself, okay, so Danny Garcia probably won't be as fast as Porter, but he'll have the bingo punch. And Spence will be there to get hit because he doesn't move his head. So I think it's a good fight. It's a very good, another good fight. Again, it was disappointing for me to see the way Porter just kind of like bowed his head and said, "All right," you know, I didn't know if he sounded like he was relieved, like, "Oh, thank goodness, the Spence fight's over. I didn't get knocked out, and I got my money, and now I'll come back. Everything. I'm not going to be a sore loser." And I know that if I lose this fight, Danny Garcia is going to have the fight next, so I'm not going to be shout about a rematch. I don't know. I don't know. But it's very odd the way Porter responded when he was interviewed. As for Errol Spence, is onward and upward. Meets Danny Garcia next. As for Shawn Porter, if I were him, I'd try and push for a Crawford fight. Another opportunity to become a world champion. I'm not shocked in Shawn Porter's performance. I don't see how Shawn Porter has anything tonight because Shawn Porter's always been a good fighter, and his resume backed that. If anything, tonight it was Errol Spence that showed us a little bit more, and once again a workmanlike performance. I think I'm going to rename Errol Spence to Errol Workmanlike Spence Jr. The truth is, he puts in workmanlike performances. And tonight is another workmanlike performance. That's it. Good fighter. But the best welterweight in the world? Is that the truth? Well, I think within a year or so we'll know what the truth really is. Thank you so much for watching as always. Don't forget to rate, subscribe, leave your comments, share the video, and make sure you are double check and see if you're subscribed, and make sure that you are hitting the notification bell. Thank you so much once again, Shawn Porter, Errol Spence. Thank you for a great fight. Next up, I guess it's Claressa Shields versus Ivana Habazan. See you soon. Take care.